What is good, Mexit planners? Welcome back to another edition of the Yucatan News Weekly Update. It's been a while, y'all, and it's been a while because Merida is wide open. The state of Yucatan is wide open. The state fair just concluded. It was about a 3-week time frame. It was incredible. The Coca-Cola Christmas tree extravaganza is ongoing since the beginning of December, and it's amazing. They now have the stage show as well as the carnival rides. There's so many activities that's happening. I've been out in the streets, to be honest with you, but I'm back today to bring you another Yucatan News Weekly update. Let's get it. I'm gonna break this down by federal, state, and local news. Earlier this week, AMLO recently visited Merida to review the progress of the federal projects that they have going on with the state for the last time this year. This is his 12th time visiting the state of Yucatan and meeting with the governor to go over the Maya Train project, the deepening of the Port of Progreso, the large central park that's being built at the La Plancha site. This is a brand new site where originally was the site for the Maya train, but now it's going to be a huge central park in downtown Merida, just to the east of the Zocalo Centro, about 6 or 7 blocks away. And it's going to be a huge central park, and it is a federal project. So that was also another project that they discussed the details of. The fourth project that AMLO was here to discuss is 2 new power plants that are being built, one in Valladolid and the other in Merida. And that's simply just to handle the Mayan train and all the population growth that we expect in the new year. Speaking of key projects, the Maya Train project is definitely one of the biggest projects that's happened to this region in the state of Yucatan, as well as the state of Quintana Roo and the state of Campeche. It is a huge project for southern Mexico, and it's the most expensive infrastructure project in Mexican history. Well, there's some bad news. In a recent leak of hacked emails, the Army generals have warned Fonatur, which is the National Tourism Promotion Fund, that bureaucracy will delay the completion of the Maya Train project beyond the December 2023 deadline set by President AMLO. The Army, which is in charge of construction, is waiting on land rights for sections of the track that will pertain to stations 5, 6, and 7, which transverse Quintana Roo all the way to Campeche. There have been further reports that the Mayan Train project will be delayed beyond 2023 because they are already so far behind schedule. It's going to take a lot of catch up to get back on schedule, which will involve paying lots of overtime. Other federal news, President AMLO recently praised the head of the SSP, which is the state police here in Yucatan, for doing such a great job on security. I did a video on why I think Merida is so secure. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out after this video. But the fact that the head of security has been a consistent and respected force for well over a decade is one of those reasons. He is definitely respected on a national level, as demonstrated by the praise of the President AMLO. In 2023, the Mexican federal daily minimum wage will increase by 20% from 172.87 pesos to almost 207 pesos per day. The federal daily minimum wage is tied to the immigration qualification for residency for foreigners who want to obtain temporary or permanent residency. So in 2023, the financial requirements for Mexican residency, temporary or permanent, will increase by 20%. Switching gears just a little bit to state news, a proposal has been given for a project to install wind turbines out in the Gulf of Mexico. The power of the wind in the Gulf is strong and can help increase the electrical capacity with the growth of the city and the surrounding areas. Deploying a wind farm in the Gulf of Mexico will also decrease the noise impact of the wind turbines to its neighbors. A project by a French company to deploy the largest solar panel farm in Latin America was canceled recently due to the uncertainty of the 4T nationalization project that AMLO proposed at the beginning of 2022. So let's hope that this project to deploy turbines out in the Gulf isn't canceled as well. In another huge state project, the bridge over Progreso is finally ready to begin in the new year after a 20-year wait. The contracts will be issued on December 16th, and the work is scheduled to begin in March of 2023 and be completed before May of 2024, before the end of the governor's term in office. The bridge will be 9.8 meters wide with 2 lanes, 1 in each direction. The bridge project is designed to eliminate the cargo trucks going through the city from the port. After its completion, they will travel over the city directly to the Merida Progreso Highway. This bridge will be there for the exclusive use of cargo trucks and will have a toll associated with it. The bridge will position the state as a more attractive option for nearshoring business. The pandemic demonstrated that the issue of having a supply chain all the way in Asia is a big concern. So the state of Yucatan being on the Gulf, connected to all of the southeast of the United States, is a very attractive geographical position to take on some of this nearshoring contracts in the future. Two other projects that will also help obtaining some of these nearshoring contracts will be the deepening of the Port of Progreso to receive larger cargo ships and the Mayan train extension from Progreso. So stay tuned. You'll be hearing more about this bridge over Progreso, the deepening of the port in Progreso, and the Mayan train extension to Progreso. Another big state initiative that was recently announced is the Secretary of Higher Education recently announced a greater investment in teaching students of the Yucatan English. English initiative will begin in the largest 14 municipalities in Yucatan: Izamal, Canacín, Valladolid, Dizantun, Motul, Mashcanu, and others. Free training and certifications will be given to teachers. The Consul General in Merida, Dorothy Nguder, made a surprise announcement that the U.S. Ambassador Ken Salazar has authorized an additional 25% increase of student visas that will allow more students to study in the United States. There will also be two major projects in public schools. The first project is to apply and teach English in 177 schools and to train 870 teachers to teach the 5,300 students. There will also be a 4 million peso investment to train these teachers. The second project is to teach 52 English teachers to work in 32 schools, and they will invest an additional 3.2 million pesos in that effort, or about 5,000 US dollars per teacher per year. Fluent English speakers in Mexico make considerably more than their counterparts. That is why private schools emphasize teaching up to 50% of their courses in English and Spanish. But in my experience, many of the instructors don't actually speak the language very well. There are over 7,000 jobs right now for bilingual professionals in the state of Yucatan. Companies are hiring all of the graduates of WADI who are bilingual business majors, and there are still 7,000 professional jobs available from companies like Accenture and many, many others. WADI is the university that teaches languages here in Mexico. Speaking of WADI, or the University of Autónoma of Yucatan, is offering language classes beginning in January of 2023 until May of 2023. They're offering beginning classes for English, Spanish, French, Italian, and Mayan, which is pretty interesting given that in the latest Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, the Mayan language was definitely on display, and the city of Merida was definitely on display. Registration is open now until January the 2nd. The cost for classes, get this, is 3,200 pesos or $167 for the semester for English, French, Spanish, or Italian. Now, the Mayan classes are 1,500 pesos or about 75 to 78 US dollars. I'll leave a link to WADI in the description notes below. In another story that made national and international news, a tourist climbed the Yucatan pyramid of Chichén Itzá and was met with a very angry and hostile response by the Mexican tourists for her demonstration of disrespect to the Mexican culture and the rules of the archaeological site. The tourist was splashed with water and had her hair pulled and other objects thrown at her as she was escorted out of Chichén Itzá and the historic site. It is absolutely forbidden to climb any of the pyramids, and it was reported that the tourists danced and taunted the people that told her to get down and that it was disrespectful. It is also reported that there should have been an increase in police presence inside the archaeological zone to prevent such an incident from occurring and to prevent the people from assaulting the tourist once she committed the offense. Many people chimed in on social media to say that no matter what happened with the tourist, she shouldn't have been assaulted by bystanders, and that an increase in security could prevent someone from climbing and the resulting assault in the future. In other news at Chichén Itzá, a couple reported having their suitcases stolen while they were off in the park exploring the archaeological sites. The police came and took a report and set up a security checkpoint at kilometer 173, where they detained a black Nissan Versa on its way to Quintana Roo, and they discovered that Nissan Versa had all of the belongings from the folks that were at Chichén Itzá. So the surveillance game is super strong here in Yucatan. If you caught the recent short, I talked about the fact that there are over 6,700 cameras throughout the states. Here's an example where something happened in one part of the state, and before they could even make it to Quintana Roo, this couple was arrested and caught with the belongings of the folks that had their things stolen. In a crazy and weird news story, in Chichén, a worker thinks he saw a gorilla as he arrived at work for his security job. He said that the gorilla was near his security post asleep, and because he was frightened, he didn't want to wake the gorilla, and so he spent the night hiding in the security guardhouse. Another account says that there have been missing fruits and vegetables in many of the gardens, and they think it might be the result of spirits that are upset for people who climb the mountain and use the mountain as a motel. I'm sure we can all figure out what that means. This seems to be a bit of a Bigfoot story here in the Yucatan. However, there may be some validity to this story, as it's known that there are very, very rich residents in Chichén that have a taste for exotic animals, and perhaps one escaped. Although if it did escape, it's more likely to be a chimpanzee rather than a gorilla. Either way, there seems to be some large ape running around the Yucatan. Speaking of less exotic pets in the state of Yucatan, the population of the state of Yucatan for the 2020 census is about 2.3 million people. So that's the entire state. The population of pets in Yucatan is 2.07 million pets in Yucatan, which is almost one pet for every person in the state, which put Yucatan as the 17th ranked state out of 32 in the country of Mexico for pet ownership. Now, there are over 900,000 dogs and over 478,000 cats in the state. The states with the highest population of pets are the states of Mexico, Veracruz, Puebla, and Guanajuato. The states with the least amount of pets are those of Campeche and Quintana Roo, our neighbors on the Yucatan Peninsula. This statistic explains to me why there are so many dog grooming and pet sitting places here in the city of Merida. Taking care of your pets in Merida is a subject that I cover in the Creating Your MexitPlans mini course and the Creating Your MexitPlans full course with contacts to recommended service providers. For more details, check out the link to the course in the description below. Speaking of local news, this year, Condé Nast has placed Merida in the top 5 of the best big cities around the world. Merida came in at number 4 of the best big cities. The secret is out about Merida. With all of the growth, you can definitely tell that people have now heard about the city. I started this news update telling you that Merida is wide open and all of the things are happening throughout the city like it was in 2019. Well, with all of the festivities and the city being open, COVID cases are rising from a low of 20 in October to well over 554 in one day at the end of November. Still, fatalities are being reported very low at 1 or 2 per day. State officials are warning that a 6th wave of COVID could be on the way if the numbers continue to climb in January or early February. If you go back and look at the Yucatan News Weekly update from January and February, I was talking about really high numbers of COVID cases and long lines at testing sites. That was because of all the holiday posadas and fiestas that are going on. So that is exactly what happened last year. And if you look back at those previous Yucatan News Weekly updates, you can see that data. So the state has actually announced some additional plans to help combat those spikes in, the COVID cases. One of the things that they've done is allow for people to apply for a permit to close their street and to move their parties outside. Simply apply for a permit to move your posada or your Christmas festivities outside, and if you do so, you get a fast response and you can have your party outside. Now, failure to apply for the permit will land you in trouble, so make sure you follow the instructions to apply for those permits. The state has also announced an additional 5 hours of alcohol sales on every Sunday in the month of December and the first Sunday in the month of January. The alcohol sales will be extended from the normal 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. on Sundays. This is posada season, which is Christmas parties, so they're gonna let the bubbly flow a little while longer for 5 more additional hours. I attended my first posada this past Saturday, and it was an incredible time. We left around 1 o'clock, but the party didn't stop to 5 a.m. That's what I'm talking about. Now, if you're looking for that perfect Christmas gift to purchase, a traditional guayabera, now is your chance. From December 15th through December 31st in the town of Chichén, Chichén will host a Guayabera Fair from 9 a.m. in the morning to 8 p.m. at night from the 15th through the 31st of December. On the 24th and 31st, the hours of the fair will be from 8:30 to 4 p.m. It will be closed on Christmas Day. Chichén is located about 38 miles south of Merida. It's about an hour, 15-minute ride from North Merida. It may be worth the drive because you're buying straight from the factories and not from the resellers in the city. There will also be embroidered blouses and dresses for ladies. So if you're looking for a good Christmas gift, go to Chichén and check out the Guayabera Fair running from December 15th through the 31st. Switching gears a little bit, there was a fire recently at the Jose Bion Contreras Theater in Centro that damaged the upper part of the building. We've gone to many events like the symphony, ballets, and other things at this theater. So this is a major cultural hub for Merida and for a lot of the events, particularly the symphony orchestra that's here. They think that most of the damage from the fire is going to be just the upper part of the theater. One of the biggest concerns was the beautiful mural that's on top of the theater, and they think that that can be saved, which is really, really good news. They still need to finish the structural assessment, but hope to have this done very, very soon so that repairs can begin. Merida has recently invested more than 1 million pesos in new tools for security, such as drones, police radios, and lapel cameras for the officers. The drone was actually used in the recent fire at the theater to detect hotspots because it's equipped with infrared and some other things. They continue to increase the security measurements in Merida, which is a very, very high priority for the state and the city. In other news, when flying into Merida, it is not possible to take a ride share from the terminal of the airport into the city. Because the airport is located in a federal zone and patrolled by the National Guard, cabs must have a license to operate at the airport, and therefore ride shares are prohibited from picking up inside the airport and must pick up outside the federal zone, which is located about a mile away from the terminal. Now, the fine for violating this rule is up to 43,000 pesos, which is around 2,150 US dollars. According to the official Uber page, drivers who work about 50 hours per week can earn 7,000 pesos per week. It's about $18,200 per year, or about $7.28 per hour. Federal minimum wage in 2022 is about $8.64. A driver that works non-stop makes about $60 per day. So for a ride-sharing driver who makes just over $60 per day, a $2,000 fine is super stiff and enough to prevent them from wanting to pick you up at the airport. In good news about flying into Merida, there are now new flight routes directly from Merida to Guanajuato operated by the low-cost airline Volaris from Mondays to Fridays. Also, WestJet has now resumed service from Canada direct to Merida. So that is also good news for your snowbirds. In other transportation news, the governor recently announced 10 concrete actions to improve the transportation system in the state. The first is a new bus route to the airport from Centro. This is a bus route that will pick people up on Calle 60 at different points and take them to the airport. Point number 2 of his 10-point concrete plan is the acquisition of 350 brand new buses with accessibility features and environmental certifications. Merida are super, super old and they spew black exhaust anytime you're behind a bus. So I'm all for them getting 350 new buses. There'll also be new routes in Valladolid, Tizimín, and Tecash. And there's gonna be 5 multi-point transfer centers in places like Progreso, Motul, along the Cancun-Merida Highway, in Uman and Caquel. These stations will include lockers, bathrooms, and infrastructure for cyclists, which will be really, really cool. There's also going to be a training center for the public transportation operators. I was actually pretty surprised that this doesn't exist, but I've seen the way some of these drivers drive, and you know, they close the door. They don't actually close the door. They pull off as soon as you touch foot on the bus, which is actually pretty dangerous. So I'm glad to see that they're going to get professional training and raise the level for their jobs. There's also going to be 39 new ATMs for smart cards, which will also be linked to the entire transportation system. Right now, the Vaivén solution uses the smart cards for payment. They're going to extend that to the rest of the bus system. There's also going to be the La Tram project, which we've talked about in the past, which is the train system or the tram system that's going to be in Merida that goes along Calle 60 from Anahuac University all the way down to Canacín. So that's going to be pretty exciting. There's going to be new night bus routes, which is point number 8. There's also a new bus route to police stations in Merida, which is also point number 9. And then the 10th point, there's gonna be 2 new bus routes added to the Va-y-Ven service, which will decrease the wait times dramatically from 24 minutes to 12 minutes. The transportation system in Merida has not been re-engineered since 1997. So it's beyond time to make some improvements to the transportation system, particularly with all the new development projects and the growth that's going to happen. The La Tram project is actually expected to begin this month at the end of December with removal of the old tracks, and the construction could begin as early as January 2023. Merida will finally have a local train system in the city, which is going to be pretty cool. Until next time, MexitPlans Monty, I'm out.